Welcome to this short tutorial about post-flight analysis using the GyrooFX mapping module. Flight data can be entered into the GyrooFX system from many sources. The flight data can be fed live into the system from a radio telemetry link or an ADSB data feed. This allows the organisers of an air event to monitor an aircraft's flight path in real time. This is covered in a separate tutorial. Alternatively, flight data can be imported from a log file, either from a GyrooFX flight recorder or any other device capable of producing high-resolution position data. Let's load a flight from a GyrooFX flight recorder, which as well as position data, will give us roll, yaw, and pitch information. Now we load the zone data from a KML file. The basic functions of the mapping module, including creating infringement zones, is covered in a separate tutorial. When the flight and zones are loaded, the system automatically calculates where there have been infringements and changes the color of the flight path accordingly. In this example of a practice flight, there have been infringements in 2 of the zones, colored red and purple. With a display flight such as this, there are many overlapping parts of the flight path, making it difficult to see the fine detail. To help with analysis, along the bottom of the screen is a slider bar allowing adjustment of the visible flight path. The graph shows the altitude of the aircraft. The green slider controls the start of the visible flight path and the red slider controls the end of the visible flight path. The white line on the slider bar indicates the position of the aircraft on the flight path. Clicking on the graph moves the indicator line and also the position of the aircraft on the map. Note that the height, QFE, is displayed next to the aircraft. Conversely, clicking on the flight path moves the aircraft to that position. Let's have a look at the area where the flight infringes the orange zone. First, click on the flight path to move the aircraft to the position of interest. Looking at the slider bar, we see that the indicator line has also moved. We drag the sliders to either side of the aircraft indicator and the visible flight path is less cluttered. We can now analyze that part of the flight path. Hovering the mouse over the flight path displays the height at that point. The Flight Statistics panel shows the flight data at the current position of the aircraft. We can see the altitude and the height, QFE. The height is calculated as the GPS altitude, minus the official airfield elevation. The elevation is manually entered as a parameter for each flight. Looking back at the flight path, we can see that this maneuver has taken the aircraft over to the left. This data comes from a GyrooFX flight recorder, so we have high-resolution roll, yaw, and pitch information available. Let's switch to the 3D viewer to investigate further. We can now see the 3-dimensional flight path and can see that the pilot has performed a barrel roll to the left with a roll at the top. Animating the flight gives us a better perspective of the maneuver. That was a nice flick roll. It looks like the maneuver was performed smoothly and correctly, but perhaps it was started too close to the infringement zone. Even better would have been to perform the maneuver to the right, away from the crowd. Back in the mapping module, we can save the flight and the zones to the GyrooFX cloud to be reloaded for further review or sharing with the display pilot. Feedback to the display pilot is an important safety requirement. An email can be sent to the pilot containing a GyrooFX backup file and a KML file with the safety committee's comments. The pilot can then review the flight. If they have a GyrooFX license, then they can view the flight in the mapping module and the 3D viewer. If the display pilot has a GyrooFX license, then the sharing functionality can be used to automatically send the pilot an email containing a link to the flight. The pilot can then review the flight in GyrooFX and have a text conversation by adding further comments to the flight. There is a separate tutorial covering the sharing functionality. That concludes this short tutorial on the functions of the GyrooFX mapping module. If you want to find out more about GyrooFX, then there are more tutorial videos on this YouTube channel. Alternatively, you can get a free evaluation license by registering at GyrooFX.net.